All right, sounds good. Well, folks, let's call this meeting of the Finger Lakes REMAC Tuesday, May 19th, 2020 to order. Um, Looking for approval of the minutes from March 17th. Those went out just the other day. Anyone have any comments or concerns regarding those? If not, I will go ahead and assume that we're going to approve those minutes. I'd like to wish everyone a happy and unusual EMS week 2020. You might recall the last time we met, we were talking about this unprecedented COVID virus that we may see some cases of. And since then, we have seen just something that none of us would ever have expected to have seen in our careers or our lifetimes. What's happened in just a few short weeks is amazing. Not been seen by any of us in this century, and hopefully never seen again by any of us. I just want to say that during EMS week and outside of EMS week, the EMS folks, the pre-hospital folks, and the hospital folks in this region have just done remarkable things. I don't think there's been any slack in service whatsoever. And my heart goes out to all of you for doing what you're doing. And you're continuing to do what you're doing. So thank you very much from all of us. Going to move right into reports. Standing reports, program agency coordinator, please.
So we have not been able to be in the office. When the college closed everything down, they essentially said we need to vacate the office. So we've been working from home, trying to stay on top of all this COVID stuff. As you may or may not have noticed, we deployed a page within our website to help facilitate information dissemination. With the COVID materials that have been put out, have been and still are attending virtual meetings with the Department of Health 3 times a week. We've been participating with Ontario counties doing a virtual meeting with all their fire department and EMS folks. We've been participating with that and offering guidance and information to those folks as well. And continuously, trying to make sure everybody's covered, got their stuff that they need, and make sure we're still conducting business as we need to. Donna will mention that we've really racked our brain to try to maintain a course offering coming up for the summer, and now starting to think about fall classes. Certainly been challenging, but I think we're doing good. We've also been, a number of the other program agency directors have been tasked with putting data into the charting software for the NAC program, which is the National Ambulance Contract. It's all the ambulances that were deployed to New York City. They're completing a one-page handwritten PCR, and that's being scanned and sent off to us for input into the image trend software. So that is a very long and tedious project that we've been involved with. That's taken up a lot of time. I've enlisted the help of Jason Haig from our end, and there's about 22 others from the various other program agencies that were not hit quite as hard as some of the other regions. End of report for now.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to FLCC Administrator.
Jake, are you on to report about the paramedics?
I am.
Okay, you go first, dear.
Sure. So the senior class, we kind of did a down low practical and got them through. They all received their emails at the beginning of last week to test their written. I have somebody testing today and tomorrow, and then throughout the next couple weeks. So the seniors were able to finish, which is great. The juniors, if I never ever have to do a Zoom meeting ever again, that would be great. But we're continuing with the junior class. I shifted the entire schedule around, and we're just doing medical emergency lectures right now, in the hopes that as soon as the college says I can get in, we're gonna get in to get them working on their skills, so that they can start some phase 2 time. I'm going to be reaching out to the rest of the agencies probably at the end of this week, to get them in to finish phase 1, or start and finish phase 1, which is just their BLS phase. So that's what's coming down the pike. Again, we're still not sure with the college what's going to happen in the fall. So we're hoping that we'll be open, and we can get back into the classroom. But otherwise, that's about it from paramedic side.
Okay, from my side, as far as other classes, again, we're working on trying to get the spring classes finished. As far as when they sent us out the door in March, we had an AEMT class that we were able to go to North Seneca and work at getting finished and that tested out. And those students have been notified to sign up for their exams. So that's moving along for them. We have a paramedic refresher that we are working on now, trying to finish up, and they will be taking their practical exam the end of May to get those out and gone. And then we have 3 basic EMTs that we are working at through various locations in the county. Hopewell has been very gracious to us about offering us Station 1. And so we are using the Ontario County Safety Training Facility for one of the classes, and they will get out and should be tested the end of June. The only one that we are hanging on to that will go longer is the one that we have that has the Hobart and William Smith students in it, because when they were sent home for their vacation in March for what they thought was going to be 2 weeks, and then everything went on obviously Zoom or whatever, virtual for them, for the college. So the bulk of them are home. And with working with the state, I was able to come up with a couple of plans for that. Those students that are local, we're going to start working with on Wednesday night to get them done the end of June so they can test in July, they're written. And then the Hobart and William Smith kids are going to come back the week of August 15th. And we're going to do a marathon 3 weeks with them so that they can take their written exam hopefully in September. And as John alluded to, again, summer classes, we have kind of scattered them all over the region only because we cannot get back in the campus. We can't do anything that's face-to-face at that Geneva campus, at least until the end of August. We have a town hall meeting with the president of the college on the 29th. From what I understand, we are considered phase 4, which is education, to be able to look at any reopening out of that campus at all. And then the other issue is there's nothing face-to-face until the end of August. And then in the fall, they are looking at several options, whether we will be doing like we were doing the old way, whether there's going to be a hybrid where we can do some face-to-face, or whether it will be strictly all virtual. And if that's the case, then we probably won't be into the Geneva campus for fall. We'll have to figure out something else. The other thing, and I know none of the physicians are going to be able to answer this, this is just a kind of a rhetorical. Some of the issues for the advanced classes is going to be when we can get into the hospitals. That's going to be a thing for Jake as well as any advanced class that we do. When do we think we'll be able to get back in? In all likelihood, we would hope for September. I'm thinking January, but I don't know on that, Jack, whether you can give us any interest, anything on that. Because I don't know what the hospital's plans are for students. I know it's not going to be just EMS, it would be nursing and everything else. So that's
I don't think we have the answer to that, Donna.
No, I don't.
We're not even allowing family members in with terminal patients. Fathers of newborns have minimal time with their wives and newborn kids. I think EMS students, unfortunately, and this is not my opinion, but I think overall are low on that totem pole for getting back into the hospitals right now.
Oh, I agree. And I think fall, we can hope for fall, but I don't expect it. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with the nursing programs either. So,
Hey, Dr. Davidoff. So one of the things that we talked about, or that was talked about in the region, or I'm sorry, in one of the core sponsor meetings, was maybe decreasing the amount of hospital time and adding more ambulance time for the paramedic students. So I'm going to reach out to you and we can chat about that. I know that obviously the OR time and the benefits of some of those rotations, but we're going to have to really sit down and look at what we're going to do, with these guys. I don't want to extend. They're going to be extended. They're not going to be testing in May. There's no way. But we'll chat to see what we can do about kind of decreasing some of that clinical time and adding it to the ambulance time, as long as the agencies are going to graciously allow our students to continue to ride. So I will reach out to you and we'll chat about that.
Yeah, Jake, I look forward to talking with you about that. I mean, the other thing we can do is reach out to some of the docs, and if we can get small groups together at some of the alternative locations, we might even get some kind of quality doc time in.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Let's look at all the options we can, but I think getting back into the hospitals is not going to happen. I don't see it happening this year. I don't think we're just not done with surges, and we're just not done with precautions. So we'll come up with some alternatives.
Are you saying
Sounds good? Thank you.
You don't think you're going to have any availability to get any paramedic students back into the hospital? Is that what you were saying?
We don't think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, Rochester Regionals, we had our nursing students and PA students and whatnot restart yesterday. So we've got med students coming back next month. So we have rapidly been getting things into place at the Rochester Regional location. So
Excellent. I'll be reaching out with our contacts then for the clinicals at Rochester Regional, and we'll see about getting them restarted in those locations then. But we'll have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say our central education office has been handling all of that, and they've been doing kind of a stepwise, like they did the RITPA students in a couple of the nursing schools this month, and are going to be kind of slowly ramping that up. So if you get your calls in early, that might get you somewhere up the list.
Okay. And Dr. Davidoff and I will chat and just see if that's going to be something that's even beneficial for our students, just to keep their safety in mind and all that. So we'll definitely be looking at that in the next week or so that we can, if we do push forward with that, then we'll get on the list so that we can get in then.
Yeah,
excellent. Thank you.
I can follow up with administration here as well and see what the plan is for getting students back.
Sounds good. Thanks, Doc.
I think this whole COVID-19 entity is changing so fast. I think we should pursue any opportunities that open up, but also keep in mind we also need to have some backup plan, because we don't know where we're going to be from day to day, much less month to month.
I believe Finger Lakes has access to a gymnasium over at Lisk, if that's helps with class and 6 feet apart and all that other stuff.
good. We'll keep that in mind, Al.
Donna, what else have you got?
That's basically all I've been working on. You know, I can get in once a week and drag out what I need to do on my dining room table. And I won't even show you what that looks like. Kind of looks like my desk at the office, but we're working on, you know, just doing the different things, trying to get these squared away and hauling equipment back and forth to the various places that we could stick the classes into to get them finished and where they're going to start off and that type of thing. And working with John, so it is what it is. That's what I tell the students. I will say to the students, basically, though, they have all been very good about this. I have not heard any real bitching, for lack of a better word for it. They all know it really is not our fault or anything. It's just, it's the way it is, and we've got to try to figure out a way to make it work.
Donna,
Most
we
of the
also,
healthcare providers. Go ahead.
Donna, we also have a trailer if it helps. If you guys find a location, you want to keep equipment stored, we can lock it up outside.
Okay,
Something to keep in mind.
okay.
Thanks for the offer, guys. Bill? Okay. Donna, anything else?
No, not really.
Yeah, I think most healthcare providers, seasoned and non-seasoned, have taken this in stride.
Yep.
And it's to their credit. As far as the medical director report goes, a lot of meetings, a lot of video meetings, a lot of phone calls early on. Things have kind of settled. We're sort of in a holding pattern right now. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't want people to have a false sense of security either. I think we're not done with this yet. So I don't have a lot to report. There is a CMAC SEMSCO meeting coming up in June. The dates have been set. I'm pretty sure that will be video. I can't believe they're going to want us to meet in person, but we'll see what happens with that. So I don't have a whole lot of anything to report. Dr. Glick, anything you'd like to add?
Nope, nothing new.
Yeah, just to highlight on your CMAC and SEMSCO, they have said that it will be virtual in some fashion, just they don't know how it's going to happen yet.
I'll make no comment about that. Dr. Talbot, anything you'd like to add?
Just echoing, your statements that really everyone, within the region and the hospitals coming together and working through this together. So
It's
I'm
been
not
the
sure
worst
if
of
we
times
mentioned-
and the best of times in some ways.
And Jack, I'm not sure if you'd mentioned, we did mention it during the QA meeting, but this is EMS week, and we do want to put our appreciation out there to everyone and how hard they're working. Sorry, we can't have as many celebrations and get-togethers as we usually do, but but the feeling is still the same.
Well voiced. Thank you. Moving ahead, RSI, RSA.
I had to put my headset on there. Sorry. We'll start with the RSI committee. So a couple things. The first thing is that, as you know, with this trying times, you wanted to be well ahead of the game. And with Dr. Davidoff's assistance, we've got a couple of agencies as temporary RSI until October 1st. We will be reevaluating the conditions probably, I would say, in September. Probably mid-September. Those agencies are Fisher's Fire and Honeywell Richmond Ambulance. Overall, I believe there was 7 or 8 providers that are provisionally granted. Another thing we're working on is, as you guys know, we approved the regionalization protocols in March. Part of that has reciprocity, working on getting reciprocity done for some people. I'm working on having a test done. The final thing that I have is, as also part of regionalization, was required for once a year that RSI agencies request permission from REMAC to remain RSI agencies. So I'm looking for a motion for the following agencies to remain RSI in 2020, 2021. That would be Victor Farmington Ambulance, Canandaigua Ambulance, Finger Lakes Ambulance, Wayne County ALS, Macedon Town Ambulance, North Seneca, and Yates County. An agency that was RSI in the past was Newark Ambulance. They are no longer ALS, so therefore cannot be RSI. And if and when they get their RSI privileges back, they would have to reapply just as a standard agency. I do have letters from all the medical directors, all the agency chiefs endorsing the agencies to be RSI. So basically, every agency that was RSI before, -1. So I'm looking for a motion for that.
Hey, Mike,
motion
you can make
first.
it. Yeah, it's a committee motion, so you can just make it without a second. The only thing that, as part of the discussion, it would be nice to consolidate the information from prior RSIs at these agencies. Each agency has basically been running its own QA process and keeping their own numbers. But it would be nice as a system to have essentially an annual RSI report saying how many RSIs were done in the region. Because I think that we don't really fully, each agency seems to know that information, but as a region, I'm not sure we do. So
That
maybe
material is pretty easily gotten off of EMS charts.
Dr. Surratt, I actually get a report each month of the RSIs, which includes the 2 flight services within the region that I could share with the committee.
Yeah, it'd be good if the RSI committee got the RSI report.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. I don't know how long we need it. If we need it yearly, quarterly, every 6 months, but that would be helpful. We're trying to really to work together and get that, but sometimes those data slips through the cracks.
John, do you think you could come up with a report for 2019 and maybe the first quarter of 2020?
Well, I'll start with the first quarter because that material is going to be easily obtained, and then I will try to get 2019.
John, maybe you can contact me offline because there's some data points that we would probably like to know, including how many times an alternate airway versus an endotracheal tube was used, simple things like that. That would give us an idea for redefining the training going forward as well. So we can work offline with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I would also like to see medical control also, just to see what doctors and what hospitals, and that's mostly for, we can get these doctors involved more in the committee and involved more in the training and education process.
Hey, Mike,
That's
Jake
all
Hartman, I got a
material.
question for you.
But
So Zach Jabot and I sat down when they were putting out regional potential for other agencies within the region to get provisional status for South Seneca. And we were told that we were not going to be granted because we didn't have paramedics that meted the requirement. And then we never really got an answer as to what that requirement was. And I'm just kind of concerned that some other agencies that are probably just as busy as we are, call volume wise, were granted, and we really weren't given an answer as to why. As we have all but really 1 or 2 of our providers that are on staff are seasoned paramedics, and then myself as a critical care paramedic. And I was just wondering if you could give any insight as to why or what denied us the ability to be granted provisional RSI status.
Hey, Mike, I can take that one.
okay, thanks.
So here's the challenge that we were given was we wanted to increase the number of RSI providers available in case there was a need for increasing intubations in the field. The criteria that we used was you had to have prior experience with RSI. All of the providers that were given provisional clearance had received specific RSI training, not as part of CCEMTP or as part of a paramedic course, but they actually had specific training. And CCEMTP does not give specific training for RSI. It covers it, but it doesn't spend an excessive amount of time. And we didn't feel that that was enough. You had to have basically seen or done an RSI in the past, and all of the providers that we cleared had either received the RSI training, but were working at the regional training, but were working at agencies that weren't RSI agencies, or they were flight medics, essentially, who have their own intrinsic training program and quality assurance program. So this was not a program to credential experienced paramedics that had never done an RSI. This was a program to transition people that had already received training for RSI into a temporary regional status. And there was another misconception. These agencies weren't provisionally cleared as RSI agencies. They were agencies that applied because they had providers that could do RSI, and they were tied to one of the credentialed agencies who were able to give a lot of the backup. So that's kind of the background to it. This was not a program to credential paramedics to do RSIs that had not received RSI training in the past.
Jake, it was something that I asked them to do on a very short notice because we had no idea the numbers of sick COVID patients we were going to see, and we just wanted to quickly get a few other providers into the mix should it be needed. Fortunately,
Right. Yeah, we were just concerned, obviously being on the southern end of the county with having those patients in our area as well. Just being able to get an RSI provider with, obviously with a couple of our providers that are obviously seasoned. But that all makes sense, and we understand that. So I just wanted to just double check with that. That's all.
And then the other thing, Jake, is it was written into that program that on October 1st, all of those agencies and all of those providers essentially lose the system clearance for RSI.
Right.
And if they want to continue as RSI agencies, you have to go through the whole process that was set out previously. And there's no prejudice one way or the other. If you weren't allowed or if you were allowed, it doesn't affect the decision to make you a system RSI agency. Or
sure,
provider.
Absolutely. All right, thanks, Doc.
And Jake, we are going to have another class probably sometime Q1, Q2 of 2021. So we're going to open it up again to everybody.
Yeah. So you just keep us updated, Mike, because I know we have a bunch of people that are interested. So
we will. And that was a big.
All right, thank you, sir.
No problem. That was a big.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Jake, if I were you, I would talk with Dr. Talbot. If you guys are in agreement, get your materials submitted now so it's all ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be chatting with Dr. Talbot about that. Thank you.
And that goes for all the agencies. If at any point you want to be an RSI agency, the sooner you get the paperwork into the RSI committee, because we always set a time limit, and then we get this whole rush of stuff the day before. So if you can get it in early, we'll deal with it up front.
Yeah, I'm pretty good about when I get an application or anything, I send it off to the committee pretty quickly.
Mike, what were you saying about the class?
We're looking to have one probably Q1, Q2, 2021.
Okay.
Maybe earlier, but I don't know, given everything that's going on.
Okay.
But there will be a class next year.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else from RSI, RSA?
So am I okay to allow the other agencies to remain RSI?
Sorry about that. You did have a motion on the table. Any further discussion about those agencies or any of those agencies or moving ahead with them? All right, seeing none, if we could maybe have a vote by show of hands of the docs, all in favor? I see a thumbs up, hands up, hands up. All right. I can't see everyone all at once, but it looks like it's pretty close to unanimous, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Paramedic Carlotta, Dr. Surratt, anyone else on that committee, thank you so much for all that you've done. You've gone above and beyond, and thank you very much. We continue to have an excellent airway management program in this region because of the work you guys have done.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Mean that. Advanced Practice Committee.
Yes, hi, me again. So a couple things real quick. The first thing is SAT protocols. I know that's a big thing. So thanks to Jason Bortle, Dave Dowdell, and Matt Spruill. We're working on them pretty diligently. Matt sent me an email looking like he's just about finished with the draft. He's going through some protocols, trying to find what Mercy Flight protocols are applicable for ground, working with the rest of the protocols we have. Matt's looking to have a draft done within the next 2 weeks. We're going to send that out. I'm not sure what the status of the meeting is in July, but I'm hoping that with the technology we have now, we could have a virtual meeting to get these protocols out, because I know that's what you would like. So hopefully that will be done within the next couple of weeks. We'll get that out. Medical control was another thing. Looking at some feasibilities, looking at a feasibility between having the med control radio frequency and also having a program with one. I know First Light does it, that you could have a number that switches over electronically via computer. We're working on that right now. Part of the reason I want to see the RSI data for med control is to see what doctors might be more inclined to participate than not. I'm hoping to have something in writing probably within the next couple of weeks. Other than that, when our meeting, we discussed a little bit about the drug shortages that we're having, specifically with Epi 1 to 10,000 and fentanyl. Other than that, we're along. Like I said, I should hopefully have a draft out in 2 weeks, and we'll get this up and running.
Thanks, Mike. That is absolutely wonderful work again that you guys are doing. And yeah, med control, we've come a long ways as far as technology goes. with the trunk systems, the radios are so much better than they used to be, although not all of our regions are using those frequencies yet. With the trunk system, because it's mostly internet-based, we can talk off cell phones directly to your radios. I mean, the technology and getting med control online to you in the field is so much easier than it used to be once we identify who the docs are going to be. So we can really make some good changes as far as that goes with the technology that we've got. So I look forward to seeing those protocol drafts in the next few weeks. Thank you again, Dave, and everyone else who's working on those. Thank you. Anything else that you've got, Mike?
That's it.
All
Anybody
right,
have
thank you.
questions, or unless there's any questions, I guess I'm done.
Hey, Mike, I got a question.
Go ahead.
What was the attendance like at the meeting? Because I know that's always been an issue.
There's probably John Clumy, and I think there's probably 9 people, maybe the same ones that always attend. Our RSI meeting was probably about 5 or 6. So, I mean, it's the same thing every meeting. Even when it's not, I figured electronically. I sent it out 5-6 times. John sent it out 5-6 times. I figured if we had electronic meetings, I get more people. But I mean, there's agencies that haven't participated in 2 years. And I know we come around and talk about what can we do, how we enforce this, but it always seems to stop right as we get to the enforcement part.
Well,
Mike, can you give me the names of the agencies that are not attending? And I will work with John, and I will reach out to the individual medical directors, and I'll reach out to the DOs or the chief medics. This has got to stop, especially now with electronic meetings. Very little excuse. I mean, Jake's driving down the road and he's talking to us. Not that I'm happy about that, but we should be able to get people to attend.
It's usually, Jack, it's usually the smaller ALS agencies that aren't attending. But other than that, I mean, the big agencies usually are the ones that are there all the time.
Which is great, and I'm very happy. And I know that there's a solid core, folks. I can easily name them. We all can, but we've got to get the other people involved. We have to.
And
So
again,
please
it's a
get
culture thing. There's no such thing as a small ALS agency. There's only an ALS agency. If you can't show up at an ALS meeting, you probably shouldn't be doing ALS care.
I can always count on Dr. Surratt to point out those important features. Thank you, sir. But
Are there any agencies that are RSI that are not participating in the committee, in the ALS committee?
No, all the RSI agencies were there.
They're all represented.
Off the top of my head, it was like Lakeshore, Middlesex, maybe a couple other Lions, agencies like that weren't attending. But like the ones that usually are consistently there are the same ones. You know, we all know who they are. So.
All right, please get me a list.
Yep.
Enough is enough. Thank you.
Hear that.
Thank you again. All right, Mercy Flight Central.
Good morning.
There you are.
Oh, I'm here. Just want to reiterate Happy EMS Week to everybody, as multiple people have mentioned. Obviously, we aren't able to do what we would normally do, but still wish everybody Happy EMS Week. We did have to postpone our Spring Education Day due to the current situation. We are looking at being able to reschedule potentially if things allow, and hopefully do our fall one, if things allow, out on the east side. Otherwise, not really much else to report.
Thank you very much. LifeNet Guthrie.
Good morning and happy EMS week to everybody. Similar situation. Obviously, COVID was a challenge for everybody across the state, the region, and the country. So this kind of put a damper on our critical care conference scheduled for September. Tentatively, it's still scheduled. It's just contingent on the state reopening plan. Some of the things that we did with LifeNet and Air Methods also is we went for PPE purposes. We went to central warehousing. What this did is it actually increased the buying power of the company to allow it to do 24-hour overnight distribution of PPE to any location across the country. And I would actually invite anybody, if they have challenges getting any PPE, to reach out to us, and we can try to get you onto our central warehousing plan to help in any way in those respects. Some of the things that we did too with there was a FEMA response activated in New York City with Jamaica Hospital. They had an oxygen failure in their hospital system. due to their overload of COVID patients, what that did was it activated Air Methods and other companies across the state and the country. And we responded with about 14 aircraft and transported 28 patients in 12 hours out of Jamaica Hospital to relieve that load. And we continue to work with the downstate region to move patients as necessary. Beyond that, I don't think I have anything else to report. And again, happy EMS week to everybody.
Thanks, Doug. Great work. Thompson
Hey, Jack.
Health. Yes, who's that?
Jamie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that you know, the whole COVID issue has really put a challenge on aeromedical providers. I've witnessed what Mercy Flight did. They did a fantastic job with their medics and their education program, and a lot of it was done behind the scenes. No one will ever see it, but I would tell Aaron that I was incredibly impressed with how the organization dealt with the challenge, how it protected its medics. And you know, you've got a $5 million fan that spreads COVID everywhere, and I was just really impressed with how the agency dealt with the challenge very proactively. And I hope that down the line, when this is all done, they'll share some of their findings with the region on crisis management and how to meet with people and how to deal with problems, because it's been fantastic. I've learned a lot with how they've done, and I hope that they can share with the region.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Absolutely.
Very good. Very good. Thompson Health.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Yeah,
there you are.
It's Matthew Osborne. Hi. So just a few things. One, this, related to the QA committee meeting before this, I just want to reiterate that for pre-notifications, we should make all attempts to use recorded EMS line. And I think probably a good idea as a group to make sure that all agencies have this readily available for each each hospital. Second, anyone pulling up here will notice that our COVID assessment area has been decommissioned. Shouldn't affect transport in very much, other than we got very few worried well patients presenting via EMS. I mean, we could all use the volume right now, but this actually is a testament to good public health, that people were not showing up. I mean, the people suitable for being evaluated in this area are typically people who shouldn't be coming to the emergency department anyway, whether via EMS or ambulatory. So you'll notice that that's been decommissioned. One pitch about the use of nebulizers in COVID patients. I just want to, make sure that people are aware, maybe just disseminate the information that, bronchodilator therapy has the risk of aerosolizing COVID. So particularly with patients with moderate to high COVID suspicion, we should do what we can to avoid using nebs, particularly in the pre-hospital setting. And then lastly, I regret that for EMS week that we had to postpone our educational event. Last year was supposed to be the first annual. The second annual was supposed to be this week. So when we can get that back on the books at a safe time, we will do so.
Jack, it's Donna.
Go ahead.
Because we fear that we're going to have an outbreak again or whatever, with the nebulizer and the different things, is there something that either one of you guys, Dr. Glick, Dr. Osborne, whoever, or Aaron, could put together and maybe we do as a fall CME for providers? I mean, we tell them not to do it, but I'm not sure they all understand why, per se, and it might be just a quick thing to put out. And Al, if we could use the gym at LISC and we could set chairs up far enough apart, I mean, I don't know how many would, but I mean, I can't anticipate you would get more than 30 people at a time there. But it might be just something to put out there for them.
Donna, we could even probably do this virtually too.
Sure.
Virtually, and put out the link and have everybody sign into it.
That's true too. I forget, because I'm old school.
in the short term, I had mentioned at the last REMAC, if a patient has their own MDI inhaler, try to bring it with them, or try to actually get them to utilize it while they're in their home before loading them onto the rig.
Right.
If agencies can find, like small capacity MDIs, with a limited number of doses in it, for purchasing, you could do that. But yeah, if the patient has their own their own MDI, I would get them to use it and bring it with you.
There's also the closed unit nebulizers with filters that are fairly safe. And I'm going to approach the state and try and get terbutaline back on the paramedics list of approved drugs. I've been using a lot of sub-Q and IM terbutaline with very good results, probably better than I got with nebulizers, quite honestly. And I may start using them more anyway. So I try and get that out to the paramedic community in New York State as well.
And even Jack, we've lowered our threshold to use intramuscular epi for bronchospasm. It's already on the protocol anyway and can be used.
I agree. I just a little concerned about some of the elderly patients, but absolutely, and that's something we do have currently. So I agree with you. Any other recommendations?
I allowed a patient to use their own MDI, albuterol MDI, just prior to arriving at the hospital. And when I came into the ED, they lost their mind that the patient used an MDI and went into full, this patient's COVID positive, everything. And the patient was purely a COPD exacerbation from all outward signs. And when I mentioned that the patient used their own MDI, the staff lost their mind about it.
Well, we need to continue to educate all levels of healthcare about COVID. Matt, anything else you'd like to bring up?
That's it for me, unless Scott has anything else he wants to add.
No, nothing in addition. Just Thompson slowly in the reentry plan. Hopefully we'll start to do more elective stuff coming up. We're always available by Med Control. We've had a pretty good relationship with agencies that transport to us, call it ahead with questions, change in what would be the routine treatment plan. And even over the last couple months, quite a few treat in place plans for patients that didn't need to be transported, and it seems like the patients were pretty happy with that. I think just as a whole, even outside of just speaking for Thompson, this is I almost kind of in my mind think of this as a test run. It's not our last epidemic or pandemic that we're going to have. It's the first in my career, as an ED physician, that I've been through one, and I've learned a lot. Hopefully we're prepared in that time in between, where, whether it's purchasing supplies, preparing staff, and almost the way we handle, through protocols and education in pre-hospital care. We handle respiratory emergencies, we handle cardiac emergencies, environmental emergencies. It's going to be that extra topic. How do we handle epidemic or pandemic emergencies? I think we'll see a lot out of this. That's it.
You left out mental health emergencies because that's going to be the next surge.
Yes.
There will be a lot of PTSD.
Psych volume in Clifton's picked up the past couple of weeks. I can certainly tell you that much.
Well, Dr. Coleman, it's interesting you spoke up because you're next on the list to give a report.
Did I look?
That's you, Clifton Springs.
Well, as far as Clifton Springs, no, we've been seeing some varied volumes, of medical patients, as well as, a significant increase in uptick in our psych patients recently. One of the things, so is an FYI for our EMS folks, not sure how much of this information got disseminated and how. Newark, their inpatient unit is no longer operating. Their inpatient psychiatric unit at Newark is no longer operating. that has been combined with the Clifton inpatient unit. However, all MHAs and all psych patients that would have previously gone to Newark for evaluation should still go to Newark for evaluation. So there's no change essentially of where people are going initially. It's just where they would go for ultimate admission. So Newark still has PAOs on staff and available, and would evaluate and take care of any of those MHA patients that they typically would. And I'll let Marita correct anything I misspeak on, but essentially the admissions would end up coming to Clifton.
Has that cut down on the overall number of inpatients you folks can take care of?
No, so they brought some staff over. Our previous cap on our inpatient unit at Clifton was 12. It is now 20. So they brought staff over up to the capacity of the Clifton unit to remain net neutral as far as the number of psych beds, essentially.
All right.
Is this a permanent thing, or is this temporary, or not?
At the moment, it is temporary. Not sure where it's going to end. They, with the current low census they'd had at Newark, given the the current situation, this was a written-in part of inpatient surge planning that had been on the books for quite some time. And I guess Newark's inpatient census had been running at less than 2 patients, consistently for a couple of weeks was one of the driving factors of that. So we'll certainly keep you updated. I know Joe Majowskis, our behavioral health director, should be keeping the other hospitals abreast of any of those changes, especially ones that would be impacting them. Though at this point, our hope and expectation is that we do not have essentially any change in operational functions for the EMS teams and in law enforcement as far as where they're bringing people.
Sorry.
No, that was it.
So I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have felt this yet at Clifton, but it's happened in Yates County with both law enforcement, to a lesser extent EMS, with the de facto closure of the inpatient unit at Soldiers, is that patients and law enforcement and EMS start to self-select taking the patients directly to Clifton because they don't want to have to come back and do 2 transports. Do you feel that may impact just the emergency department at Clifton's overall capacity or stretch that capacity if that starts to happen?
Yeah, and that's definitely been one of our first initial concerns. We haven't seen that yet, but when Soldiers in Geneva kind of changed their service provisions earlier this year, we got crushed for 2 months until things kind of sorted back out. Our psych volumes were just through the roof. We're hoping to not see quite as much of that. Again, trying to message out appropriately that everybody should essentially still continue to go where they're going and where they would go normally. We have had some additional self-presentations of people to Clifton that said, hey, yeah, they said that, inpatient at Newark's closed and I know I'm going to need to be admitted. So that has resulted in some intermittent capacity challenges for us without question. And has at times, as we've been really, overburdened in the department, has restricted our ability to take some transfers at times as well. So definitely going to be a challenge we'll continue to work through, but would very much appreciate any messaging to your teams that at this time, everybody should still be going to where they were going previously. That's all.
All right. Anything? Okay. Thank you. Dr. Talbot, Geneva and Soldiers.
Similar similar, volume declines as I've spoken with Matt and Rita and James. We have been running just about 50% of pre-COVID levels. We've seen some days where we've thought that we were going to start ramping up, and then the volumes will kind of shift back to 50%. But I think as things begin to open, we're doing elective procedures and surgeries now. And I think we all acknowledge that the patients we are seeing are sicker. Admission percentages and transfer percentages are up at our facilities. Geneva in particular have gone from about 18% to about 27% when you take the two together. And that's about all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Last and absolutely not least, Newark Wayne.
Thanks for that. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, thanks. I echo both Matt. Same thing as we're seeing an uptick now in people returning back to the emergency department inconsistently, and our admission percentage is almost exactly the same, around 27-28%. And thank you, James, as well, for everything with our MHAs. We are seeing a little bit of miscommunication out there. It takes one sentence and word flies that we're not taking MHAs, and that is not correct. So we are still seeing a lot of psych patients. Wayne County owns its good share of them, and keep them coming because we're getting them processed very quickly. So other than that, happy EMS week to everyone, especially everyone on this call. Sometimes you're not included in some of the celebrations at the outside hospitals. I know it's very muted right now, but I wanted to thank everyone for all of your work and what you do every day. We appreciate it.
Rita,
Excellent.
just quickly, there's no plan currently to apply for closure of the unit?
No, it's just part of our surge plan right now, and we're going to see how it goes and how volumes go.
Sure.
All right, thank you. All right, moving ahead. Is there any old business that anyone wants to bring forth? John, Donna, anyone else?
So the only old business is I didn't send them out, the evaluations from the conference back in February. Everybody's gone on and completed the surveys, and it was grossly positive for last year's conference. And we want to start beginning to think of subject matters to present at the next year's conference in the event that we're able to carry through with that in February. So if anybody, especially the docs, if you have a subject matter that you would like to present or you think is important to get out there, by all means, please send me an email.
All right. New business. John, do you have anything on your list as far as PAD, any letters from the state? I think a lot of stuff's been on pause, but what do you got?
Well, we do have one PAD. It's from Hobart William Smith College. The application looks complete, and we'll be sending that off to the Bureau at the conclusion of this meeting. There is reports from the Bureau that there is additional guidance documents that will be coming out in the event that this beast decides to rear its ugly head again. That would be the only negative component that I could speak of, is the very slow reaction to materials coming out from the Bureau.
I've spoken to them every several days, and I get the same answer. I know other people on this call here have spoken to them as well. They've got to be getting calls several times a day from various folks, and we've not seen much from them, which is very frustrating and sad. We had a termination of resuscitation protocol that many of us worked on, put many hours into. We presented it. We were told it was not high on the list. It took 2 weeks for the health commissioner to approve it. The next day he revoked it. So it's been somewhat of a frustrating time, but despite that, we're all getting through it. Any other new business? If there's no other new business, again, happy, oh, Dr.
What
Surratt.
about we always discuss this in May about the July meeting, whether we're going to keep it or cancel it.
Well, it's open for discussion. Under the circumstances, I would have no problem having a July meeting via Zoom, but certainly open for discussion. That's my personal opinion only.
Jack, my feeling is we should keep it on the books at this point for July, in the event that we have to push more materials back through the committee.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, we've never had a COVID infection like this. So I think as much as I'd love to have July off, we're all going to be around working or somehow in some way available. Say, let's keep it on the books and see what happens, if that's okay with everyone. Anyone disagree with that?
No,
All right.
just given the uncertainty, I mean, we have no idea what we're going to be talking about and dealing with in 2 months, so I'd keep it too.
I'd be very happy if we could all get together and talk again in July. So, all right. In that case, again, I'm very, very happy. Stay healthy, EMS Week and beyond for everyone. Bill Montesano, I'm sorry you signed on. Anything from the primary care side looking onto EMS that you'd like to mention before we close?
No, we really haven't seen too many cases. I do want to mention, though, that any providers that like to get tested, I got tested last week at the Monroe Community College site. All you got to do is say you're a first responder, and the state actually worked quite well. Pull up in your car. I've only had one case, my colleague, unfortunately, and he's doing well. Not too much. I had not seen a lot.
We've been very fortunate in upstate New York. Over the years, I've said bad things about upstate New York, but for once, kind of happy to be spending some time here. So, all right. Anything else from anyone else before we look to adjourn? Folks, stay well, stay healthy. I look forward to talking with all of you soon. We'll adjourn the meeting, and best to everyone. Bye now.
Take care, everybody.